On today's episode of Drummers Eating Pizza, I sit down with Jason Gianni to discuss his favorite New Jersey pizza and his start in music. We'll talk about his music education and where he went after college, his move back to the East Coast, and his 2 books and his current music projects. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And now, Drummers Eating Pizza. All right, everybody, Drummers Eating Pizza. We are here with the amazing Jason Gianni. We're in New Jersey. I won't give his address away because he has too many stalkers to begin with.
Nowadays, you could just look through the interview and get an address or
Oh, really?
Probably they'll find it. And
yeah, I have no idea how to edit that stuff out. So
yeah, so
if you really want to stalk him, go ahead. He has a very mean dog. So we are getting pizza from Joe's.
Yeah.
You said.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got half tomato pie and black olives and half just cheese. I've got some pictures that I'll upload. Sometimes the camera can't see it, and people are like, "Show the pizza."
Yeah, man.
So did you grow up in New Jersey?
I did.
So
In
this
town. Yep.
You were saying that this is kind of like the New Jersey bar pie. So this is what you grew up with.
That is correct.
pizza-wise.
Yeah. There are a couple places around our area that serve this type of bar pie pizza, which is sort of like a flat crust, and sometimes when it comes out hot, it's a little oilier, a little gooier or greasier, and that kind of thing. But this is a place called Joe's in Vauxhall, which is next to Millburn, New Jersey. I live in Livingston, New Jersey. And there's another place in the area called Star Tavern, which a lot of people who are watching might know, and it does this style of pizza. But yeah, the bar pie, if you ever watch, what's his name, Dave Portnoy, he always talks about the bar pie.
Yeah.
And Joe's is one of the places that a lot of people go to. And the funny thing about this is when I was a kid, when you pull up on Vauxhall Avenue toward the location, the place used to be like a rundown old house they used to do it out of. And there was an exhaust fan in the back that was just dirty and mucky and everything. And I used to call it the Dirty Fan Store. And so I'd say to my parents, "Are we going to the Dirty Fan Store?"
Yes, we are.
And here it is.
Yeah. My first guest that I had on Matt Penza, he actually made the pizza.
Oh, wow.
Because he's from South Shore, between Boston and Cape Cod.
Right.
So they had the bar style in that area. So he ended up making the pizza because he goes, "That's kind of what I grew up eating."
Yeah.
Actually, I think he's from Connecticut, but they were always at the Cape, and he said this was his favorite kind of pizza. Cool. So it's funny, he'll randomly put a thing on Facebook. He's like, "I'm making pizzas this weekend. Who wants one?" And he'll he'll deliver them. No, he'll just make some. He's just like, "I'm in the mood to make pizzas." So this is probably the second bar style type thin that I've had.
Cool.
I'm excited.
That's
to
great.
in.
And I'm sorry to this is my side. I'm sorry to ruin the pizza, but I'm lactose intolerant and can't have cheese. So I you know what I usually get is, especially when I'm in Italy, I get a tomato pie, just tomato sauce with black olives and some fresh prosciutto put on top, and it's so good. I wish I could have the cheese. I do every once in a while, but you don't want to pay the price later. So But your side is the way we do it. Let's do it. Yeah. See what you think. I probably should have warmed it up a little bit more.
No, I eat pizza hot, cold.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yep.
What you think?
It's good.
Tasty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like having, like we were talking about earlier, the New England pizza are from Western Mass. Always is thicker. So sometimes you get a pizza, and listen, I could eat pizza every day. My doctor has told me don't eat pizza every day. My blood work has shown I should not be eating pizza every day. But having a pizza like this, I feel like you can eat more. It's sometimes you eat 2 of the thicker, or a Sicilian. Yeah. And then you eat it and you're like, "Oh man, I don't know that I can have another slice."
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm bummed out I only ate 1 slice of pizza.
Right.
So this is good because I could sit down probably on a Friday night and, have a ball game on.
Wolf a whole pie.
Eat the whole pie. I'd feel bad after, but it would be delicious. Yeah, this is good.
Good. Good.
It's always different to try when you get a cheese pizza, that's kind of like your home base, right? Like everything else is icing on the cake of topping wise.
Right.
If you can't make a good cheese pizza, that's like the whole thing is, I think that's why Dave goes and does the regular just cheese pizza, because you don't want the different flavors to override like what's your base pizza that you're doing.
Yeah. And just to teach you a little lingo in Jersey, we call it plain.
Just plain?
Just plain.
Just plain.
Yeah. So this is plain, and then tomato pie. Actually, tomato pie is a little more popular down in Philly, and what they do is they sprinkle Parmesan cheese on it, so it's just the sauce, and it's also more Sicilian style, like a thicker, square, and it's delicious. But sometimes I'm a little bit better with Parmesan cheese, so I can have a little parm on that, but usually I just tell them to leave it off and just have the sauce, and then put my own toppings on it or something. So
I think Pat tonight had said that we're talking about going someplace with a good tomato pie. So that may be what we're getting tonight.
Cool.
I never know till I get there, which is always good.
If it's the real tomato pie, that's what I had just said, with like a square thicker with Parmesan cheese on it. Yeah, it's delicious. Great. Yeah.
So topping wise, what is your go-to toppings? You were saying.
Well, it depends on where I go. Being Italian, I'm very picky about the quality of the meats. So when you order prosciutto from a place in like Nebraska, you're like, what is this?
Is this bacon?
Exactly. Yeah. Pork knuckles or
He's
something
asking
like that.
for some weird meat. Just throw bacon on there.
Right. But if you get really good prosciutto, like thinly sliced prosciutto Parma or San Daniele or something like that, I could put it all over a pizza. It'd be great. So usually like a good black olive prosciutto and like a sun-dried tomato or something like that, or sun-dried pepper or something.
What about absolute no-nos on pizza? Do you have anything you've had on there and said never again, or some people, the whole pineapple thing is such a I've honestly had Hawaiian pizza with the pineapple and the ham. It's not awful. I wouldn't go to it all the time, but like if somebody's got it, I might say, yeah, I'll try, a slice. And if Tommy Igo ever watches this, he's probably. I know that's his big thing, is there absolutely no pineapple.
I don't think they do it. Well, they might do it out in Vegas because it's near California. I'll ask him next time I talk to him. But I don't like fruit on salty things.
Yep.
I'm kind of a sort of simpleton when it comes to food. Like I don't like a lot of combination stuff.
Yeah.
I remember my old ancestors who have since passed would have a plate of food on the holidays, and they'd take a spoonful or a forkful of everything. And I'd be like, that's
kind of me.
Really?
It's like a buffet plate that I get. Yeah.
I eat one thing at a time. So when it comes to stuff, I'm pretty simple. But like my wife likes like banana peppers and weird stuff like that. Like I don't do that. So pretty much, I don't know about no-nos, but just like I just sort of stay in my lane, if that makes sense, of just keeping it kind of simple. Yeah. I wish I could. I mean, I used to eat pizza like this all the time. That was my favorite thing, the plain thing. Yeah. But since I can't have cheese now, I just kind of stick to this. And I like pepperoni, like a meatball, something like that would be good. They make good meatball pizzas around here where they have the little mini meatballs and like kind of slice them in half and put them on. Yeah. Yeah,
I did an episode with Brian Dunn, and we did... I think we did a plain cheese, and then we also did ricotta and meatball.
I could see that.
Like a white. That was really good. And it was like it was actual meatballs. Sometimes you get people that say meatballs, you can tell they just took Hamburg and kind of made it into,
right.
Instead of like actually like making the meatball. But this was like a meatball. You could see you had the top round part, and then there was some thin slices. It was good. So that I've actually added that into the list of stuff, is like meatball and ricotta for like a topping on a pizza. Right. Which was never kind of a go-to, and then we had that. I'm like, I'm going to add that to the list of like, what am I in the mood for? I'm going to go for that,
Try the prosciutto at some point.
I've never had it on pizza.
Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. It might not mix great with prosciutto and mozzarella mixes great with the cooked cheese, but like on the top of
like a tomato pie.
Sauce with the tomato pie and the prosciutto is like it's amazing. Yeah, real good.
Maybe that'll be the next one at home.
Try it tonight.
If somebody, although our area probably we would be like there might be one or two places that may have some. There's a couple places in Springfield,
Yeah.
that are around local delis that would probably get good. You know, they're Italian run, you know, old school family that
Cool.
would probably not skimp on that. If they, I don't even know that they have it as a topping, but I could go to a place down the street,
I was just gonna say, just go to
a
an
deli,
Italian
and
deli.
buy it and then put it on.
Get a quarter pound of prosciutto di Parma,
Okay.
and then just it's real thinly sliced, and just kind of drape it on, and
Yeah.
it'll be great. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
now we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes
So we have to meat and potatoes. We got
of
pizza.
Jason Gianni.
Oh God.
So most of these questions stay pretty similar because I like to get everybody's answers to like the kind of your standard-ish questions. So the first one is like first musical memory that you have, like a core memory, even if it's like you don't have the full story, but it's like I remember at 3 this happened.
Being in my parents' kitchen, somewhere between 2 and 3 in our apartment in West Orange, sitting on the floor with pots and pans and wooden spoons. My parents, and I'll make probably a couple references to this because you saw my interview with John DeChristopher. My parents were very musical. My dad was a part-time bass player. My mom didn't play anything, but they loved music. And my dad would spin music constantly in the house.
Yep.
So when it was playing, I was always banging around on stuff. Didn't play the drums at the time. They just knew I just liked to do that.
Yep.
And like probably a lot of drummers, even yourself, we started with the pots and pans. Then years later, it turned into the keyboard, where I started playing along with the keyboard. And they said, well, what instrument do you want to play? I'm like, both,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first memory. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So clearly that you came from a musical family or had music in the house type of thing. Like Jason Bittner yesterday was talking about nobody in his family played music. I'm the same way. Nobody in my family ever did. I think my grandmother played saxophone in high school in like 1934. But my father always had instruments. Like he had like clarinets and an old guitar and some auto harps without the actual thing to press down. So actual harps, just as like decorations around the house.
Right.
And I always would, run on the strings or, do this or do that or, pick up the clarinet, which had like, it was completely just junk, but he had it as decoration. So it's interesting to see how many musicians have that thing in their house with music that is the catalyst. And then it's interesting how many people don't have that. And like I don't know if it's just the energy of music that comes through, or as
Sure.
how does that work
happen?
for somebody that wasn't influenced? I mean, my father always played music,
Right.
when he'd be in the basement, cleaning his guns before hunting, or
Right.
if we go fishing, he always had the radio on. But
Right.
nobody in my family ever played music, but I had the bug immediately. I knew I wanted to do something.
I always say that this is a mistake. Like I don't know how this came about. Much like Jason, we really didn't have many people in my family that played music.
Yeah.
Loved it, but didn't really play it. My dad's brother played a little piano. Like I said, my dad played bass. My dad actually, forgetting the name of the band, but almost joined one of like the 60s like rock and roll bands that ended up having was it the Spiders or was that his band? No, that was his band. And they had a hit on the radio, but he was such a hobbyist type of player and was never going to go into that. I have a cousin who's a classical pianist. He's a dermatologist for practice, but he's at one point he was kind of world renowned in that you can see it on video on YouTube, the opening of the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. There were all these piano players and he was one of those piano players.
Cool.
Yeah. And that really is the extent of the musicianship, and we'll probably get into this, so I don't want to jump ahead too much, but the one thing that I was afraid of, and I don't know if Jason said the same thing, is that as I got older, I was afraid, well, how am I going to do anything in the music business? Nobody is in the business. Nobody's in the entertainment business. No one's going to help me.
Yeah.
You know, how's that going to happen? So that kind of manifested into my story and versatility, like with the Drummer's Bible and things, and going to school and that kind of thing, and why I made those decisions.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So when did drums become? You said you did a little piano. When did drums become it? Like you were like, that's what I want to do. I'm doing drums.
My mom says that I was drumming like my whole life, like in the nursery school parade, I'd strap on a drum and
Perfect.
March
Fisher
the
Price
kids around.
plastic drum.
Yeah. And then I'd cry because I'd miss her and stuff. Yeah. And then I'd pee the rug that I was saying, napping on, the whole thing. But it wasn't until I was about 9 that I started playing piano. And it was a combination of like this Casio that my parents bought, and then my grandmother had an upright that I was always play. And I had a neighbor also that I'd go over her house and play. I didn't read music, and I had close to perfect pitch, so I was just like reading stuff, just stuff was coming off of, radio and MTV. And then 11 was when the drums came in.
Okay.
I saw two of my friends carrying 2 different drum pads around the school. One was carrying the old a wooden plank one.
Yep.
Like that.
On the angle,
then, yeah. And then the other one was carrying the Remo, the gray pad.
Gray with the
and I was like, I think I want to do that, and I just took to it like, right away. It was immediate. So.
Did you do lessons right away?
Yeah.
And now here's a question, because for me, I didn't. We learned, your rudiments, but it was, I think the guy was a trombone player or trumpet player.
Right.
The 5th grade band director.
6th grade for me, yeah.
So, knew very minimal. Did you get into rudimental stuff right away? Was that something that was shown to you that you were like, okay, I need to do this?
Enough of it. Enough of it to get the snare work and timpani work done at that age. 5-stroke rolls, 9-stroke rolls. We were shown traditional. We were shown matched. I was not studying the 40 rudiments like a marching drummer yet. Yeah. That didn't come till later. And like you, my grammar school band teacher, Mr. Lulevich in 6th grade, was a clarinetist. I think he was a clarinetist because I think his daughter was a clarinetist. And he was a good teacher. He was good. He taught us really well. Taught us the basic rudiments. I remember having lessons, doing rolled work and things, his flam work and stuff, but it wasn't heavy on the rudiments, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just enough to get through the, things at that age, So.
Yeah, see, I felt like we didn't have that, or maybe I just put the mental block up of like, this is an exercise. I want to play music. I don't want to play exercises out of a book.
Yeah.
But I remember getting into high school, and we had marching band. We didn't have a marching band. The teacher was whoever was the best senior.
Oh yeah.
That's how
yeah,
it
right.
went.
Yeah.
So I remember we would get the music, but it's funny because I look back now, and like Tony Leone really, when I took some lessons with him, when I was at Hart, he gave me the Wilcoxon book and was like, we're going to do this with sticks and we're going to do it with brushes. And I remember thinking like, oh, okay, so that's what a flam accent looks like.
Right.
And this, whereas in high school, I was like, I had no clue. There was no stickings, and I was like, this is impossible. I don't know how to figure this out. Yeah. So it was just, I think we half-assed everything in marching band. It was kind of like, whatever we did, somebody showed us how to do, but we didn't know what it was. And I feel like I try and push rudiments on my students. With your students, do you make sure? So do you have younger students? Or are you at the point where you're only taking intermediate, advanced students, and the younger kids they already have that in their basket?
Let me go back for a second and just say that 2 things. Number one, Livingston Township in New Jersey here always had a really good music program. The band director, Bob Worth, became the music administrator for the whole township and some townships around, and he was very, very musical. So they did the band room over. We had marching band, we had concert band, we had jazz band. We competed. We had a really good music program, and his assistant, Tony Schmaus, was drummer.
Okay.
So I had really good instruction growing up and good foundational instruction. Okay, and it did increase every year. It wasn't like from the beginning we were doing all this kind of stuff, but as you got older, you did start to study more of that kind of stuff, and that was really important. The other thing is, and we'll get into this with my history a little bit more, but I never asked questions growing up. I wasn't one of the ones that were just like, "Whoa, why are we doing this?"
Yeah.
We just did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, you got to work on mallet stuff now. Okay. You got to work on crash cymbals now. Okay. You just did it, Hence the reason I went to school for actually orchestral than drum set, With my students, it's... So the majority of my students at least have been, up to now, and I'll explain that in a minute, older, like college age.
Yeah.
I being with the Drummers Collective for 20 plus years, being at colleges, that sort of thing. I would often teach a rudiments class. So it would be a structured class of how to go through and apply it to drum set or the different ways of using it. I was one of the few instructors at the collective who has the experience of doing orchestral stuff. So the rudiments would be taught open like march, and I marched for 8 years. So open like marching, and then closed like orchestral.
Yes.
So we'd be able to take one semester with closed rudiments and one semester with open rudiments, and it's a very different approach, right?
Absolutely.
And I learned that growing up too. It really depends on the student. The collective has changed a lot. I'm not teaching as much in general now. I'm more out on the road. But the students that I do take now are normally between the ages of about 12 or 13 to college age, because I'm getting them to try to get scholarships to go to college. And in that case, if I get those type of students, then yes, we're working on rudiments, we're working on orchestral excerpts, we're working on Cerrone and Delacluse and Wilcoxon and that kind of stuff. For people who are not as serious, well, we're just sticking to the drum set.
Yeah.
And with teaching, I've become a lot more individual. I was telling Johnny this too, where there used to be a time where I would blanket students with the same thing.
Yes.
All right, everybody take out their notebooks, you're all learning this.
We're all doing that.
Not really that anymore, because schools are so expensive. Some people are not going. Everybody has different levels. It's now really based on the individual.
Yep.
So to answer your question, I'm very dedicated to rudiments with some people, and with other people, sometimes we don't even touch them that much.
Yeah.
So it really depends.
I try and sneak them in some.
Sneakily. Yeah. You know what I'll do is I'll it's the amount of rudiments. Like for everybody, I do some. I mean, flams and different roll types and things like that. We'll go up to maybe the first, 26. The major earlier 26, and then for the ones that are really invested in it, we're doing all 40 and making sure they know how to do all of them. So
nice. Now, you always said that you were into drumming and music. Was there a light bulb moment of like either seeing somebody, a professional, or you just saying, this is my path?
Oh, there was a light bulb moment. It was 1979, Madison Square Garden. I was 7, and I didn't even play yet, and I saw Kiss.
Nice. Okay. Yep.
My best friend was a Kiss fan, and his father brought me my 2 best friends, one who turned out to be my guitarist in my high school band, and we saw them in Madison Square Garden. And I said, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I've always been a Kiss fan, but they're not my favorite.
Yeah.
It was just my first favorite.
Yeah.
And that was the light bulb moment.
Yeah.
It was a great moment too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was neat.
Yes.
Really neat.
Yeah. Everyone's kind of got that moment.
Yep.
So to have Kiss as the light bulb moment, that's cool. At Madison Square Garden.
It was really amazing. Right? Yeah, I remember it. And the funny thing about that is I actually found the show on YouTube.
Oh, really?
And I look at Paul, and he's wearing this purple jacket, and his hair is... I'm like, I remember him looking like that. And there was a really memorable... I have a memory that's just etched in my head, is Ace's guitar on fire going across the stage on a string. You couldn't see the string. Yeah. And I look on YouTube, I'm like, I remember that.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
YouTube is a great...
I know.
And I always joke with my students of like when I was your age, I go back to the old man
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
I had to open Modern Drummer magazine. I had to go to the back, and they had the DCI videos, and I would have to cut out the thing and check which ones I wanted, and ask my mom to write a check, and then wait 6 to 8 weeks for handling and processing, and then get it in, and then you'd have that one video that you would watch over and over and over.
Yup.
And now my students are like, oh, remember that video we were talking about? Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's like everything, all these videos that like I just obsessed over having. Everything is at your reach. And in finding concerts like that.
Yeah.
To see stuff, I think the nostalgia issue as we get older, to go back and find things that are on there and be like, wow, yeah I remember being at that. That's cool. Or seeing, the beginnings of a band where like they were on VHS. And if you didn't know the band, you never saw that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So to be able to have people posting, their beginnings.
One of the biggest influences for me for like a videotape were the Buddy Rich Memorial Scholarship concerts. I was at the second one with Steve Smith and Marvin Smitty Smith and Neil, and I went because I was such a diehard Rush fan, and was turned on to so many different people there. And when I watched that, not only am I inspired by the playing, but I'm like, man, I remember I was sitting. I remember what he did there, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, YouTube's. I mean, we can get into this for a whole second interview. YouTube is both incredible and dangerous at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So yeah.
I remember seeing I went to summer music camp at Hart, and one of the counselors was a percussionist that was there, and he was just staying in the area over the summer. So he did like the 2-week summer camp, and it was a rainy day, and I'd never really seen any like badass drumming.
Right.
And he's like, hey, we're going to go in the percussion room. I'm going to get the VCR. And he had the, Weckel Caliuta one.
The battle.
We watched that. And then he played the other one with Steve Smith and Smitty Smith, and watching the speed of Smitty like moving around the toms. And then watching the trio drum battle. I mean, I think I was that kid with like my chin on the floor, like, whoa, that's what you can do on drums. Because I had never seen even a live drummer in our area do anything remotely like that.
Yeah.
Occasionally, if I could stay up late enough at the time, you might see like somebody on the Tonight Show where like Buddy Rich might go in, or watching Ed Shaughnessy play. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But I never saw anybody at that level of performing, and that wasn't really a light bulb moment per se, because I already knew I wanted to do music.
Right.
But I didn't know the extent of where you could take it to.
If you think about it, that would to me is like the apex. That was the top of drumming, because that was like right before any sort of digital recording. You know what I mean? Or right at the time. Like I think of like Injustice for All and some of the Metallica stuff just started using some editing around that time, right? And if you watch those guys, you're thinking, man, these guys are doing this for real. And now, the players are absolutely insane. What people are doing on the drum set are like, rewriting the drum set, but you just still don't know what's being auto-corrected and that kind of thing. So you look at that and you go, man, Vinny was really doing that stuff. Steve Smith was really going,
really doing that.
He was right hand, right foot, like that clean. It was such a great time, man.
Yeah, and to be able to see it, because when you hear it on a record, or a CD or whatever.
Oh, that changed my life. Seeing it.
But then to see the technicality of it being like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's like you said, that's for real. I knew it wasn't edited back then, but to actually visually see it is amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right, so the light bulb moment was Kiss.
Yeah.
That's cool. So when did you at that point you knew, all right, I'm doing this?
Yeah.
So as soon as you got into high school, were you? So you were 7, so you clearly weren't in high school yet.
How do you know?
Doogie Howser. Did you, as soon as you were in high school, you're like, this is it. I'm all in.
Yeah.
So you knew my path of where I'm going. How did you decide on your undergrad? Like when you went to college, how did you decide to go to that school? And which school did you go to?
So I went to the University of Delaware as undergrad, and then Penn State as master's. I decided, so my parents had always told me to have a backup plan, right? And I think it's smart. I didn't really know what that meant at the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, manja, it's good pizza. Sometimes when your parents at a young age tell you to have a backup plan, that could also mean what it meant to some other people that were friends of mine of, no, we're not supporting you. Don't go into music.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, my parents were incredibly supportive. And so my backup plan ended up being sort of twofold. One was go to a university instead of a music school. So that if you have to have some sort of credit when you get out that's not just related to a trade school, you know, you could do that, right? And then the other thing was, and this is sort of the stem of the drummer's Bible, is be as versatile as you can. So I went to schools with the idea that I was going to get an orchestral, you know, degrees. Not teaching. I didn't want to go into music education because I didn't want to teach high school.
Yep.
It would be performance. But I was going to go through orchestral, and then I would have minors in jazz and or you know, make a double major or something like that. And I ended up doing a minor in jazz. So I have masters, bachelor's and a master's in music performance, both in orchestral, and then I have a minor in jazz.
Yep.
And that was my decision. I made that decision ahead of time. You know, a lot of it was based on what we were talking about before about not knowing people in the industry and being afraid that I wasn't going to have any, runaway olive. I wasn't going to have any help. So what's the best way to do this? Well, open up as many avenues as you can to get as much work as you possibly can. And also, luckily, when I went to Penn State, I was recruited and I got an assistantship.
Yeah.
So I paid my way through. I got paid to go to school to teach. So I was teaching drum set and doing all the jazz stuff for the school and getting the orchestral degree. Yeah. So wearing a lot of hats, basically what it was. And I made that decision early on to, you know, kind of pad the foundation.
Yeah. Which I think is great. I think, like I tell my students, I had a friend that came over that his two kids, I think one's just out of high school, the other one's in high school. They both want to be rock stars. And I told him, I'm like, listen, go for it. Like, you're young, go and do it. But I said, don't put all your eggs in, I'm going to be a singer, guitar player in this band, and I'm going to be Kurt Cobain, and I'm going to be a rock star. And
Right.
It's like, that's awesome, and that should be your goal, but learn how to mix. Learn how to do lights. I said, learn how to record. I said, there's so many hats that you can wear that somebody might say to you, hey, our band needs a sound guy tonight.
Sure.
And you can go run sound and make, $100, $200, at the VFW or wherever they're playing. But like, if you don't know how to do that, you're limiting what you can do as a musician. So I think definitely having that wide variety of things that you can do and hats that you can wear, especially with the music industry now, is you got to have it.
Well, the funny, you mentioned something that actually was one of my regrets, and I don't have many regrets, but the one thing that I look back and I go, I really wish I did more of, is that I wish I was behind the board more. I was of the generation in the early 90s that immediately got schooled with Cakewalk, which is the first MIDI version of stuff, and went to Cubase. So I got a lot of experience with the digital side of things, and to this day, I'm still very good with software. But as far as the hardware side of things, like if you put me in front of an analog Neve board or something, I would not know the first thing to do.
Look at all these knobs and buttons.
So that's what are all these chords? I'd probably tangle myself in the chords and stuff. This is my studio. I have a setup over here. It's covered up where I do all my recording from here on my computer. I use Logic and I mix and that kind of thing. But as far as the analog side of thing, and I love the analog. I love recording to tape. I just don't know enough about it. So nowadays, I still promote the idea of being as well-rounded as you can, but I'm a little less prone to saying, okay, you have to do this style perfectly, and you have to do this. You have to be that Swiss. Dave Elitch, my old student, calls it the Swiss Army knife. Okay, less of a Swiss Army knife and more of just have different trades. Like you said, like learn how to mix, learn how to do sound, learn how to do this. But all at the same time, it really is all based on goals.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just like, look, are you sure you want this? Is this what you want to do? And if you are, what's the what kind of money are you looking to make? What kind of, what are you interested in doing? Because we can't just do that anymore. Things cost too much money. There are too many great players out there, to just be like, hey, all right, man, learn your Latin and you're going to be fine. No, there's a lot of guys that know how to do that, So, like you said, really getting into like what's in the industry now is really the key to doing that with a lot of people.
So when you graduated, what did you want to do?
Yeah.
And where did the path lead you?
Great question. Well, what I wanted to do was I wanted to immediately work out in New York City. I wanted to do some Broadway stuff, which I ended up doing, but years later. And I wanted to do lots and lots of session work, which I ended up doing right away. But my wife, who I was dating at the time, got an offer to go to San Francisco to work on photojournalism and get a master's at the Academy of Art in San Francisco. She'd already done a semester in the summer. She said, I got a semester and a half left. Let's go out for a year and a half and just feel out the waters. Okay, so we moved out there and we ended up staying 10 years. Yeah. And a lot of it wasn't necessarily by choice, but more by the fact that we were working. And it was like, okay, let's just stay at this. Let's do another year. And then I got signed to a band and we kind of stayed a little bit longer and that sort of thing. As I look back, I would never have stayed that long. I would have gone back to New York. But immediately when I got out to San Francisco, the first thing that I did was, and again, I said this in Johnny's interview, is I took the phone book, and then there was a book in San Francisco called the Reel Book, not the jazz reel book, but the REEL, and it was a book. It looked like a reel on front, and it was a book that listed all studios and lighting companies and stage companies and managers and all these different things of like the entertainment business. And I went in the yellow pages and I went to every studio. I visited every studio. And I found this one studio that ended up needing a drummer like me and all this multimedia stuff. And that's when I started doing all the TV work and movie work. And it was like right away, I got lucky. The timing was right. I was 23. I was really young. But I knew, with all the work on the reading that I had done and I knew I could record. So many people asked me to record in school, like I'm doing it in like seconds. It's like I got to be good at session stuff, right? And I was on a cruise the year before I graduated my master's degree, and I met this drummer named Tom who worked on the cruise. And I go, "What do you do when you're not cruising?" And he goes, "Oh, the usual thing. I'm out gigging." He goes, "I just did this mobile gas commercial, and I was at a Super Bowl with some friends, and we were sitting around. I go, hey, that's me." And I'm like, man, that would be cool, And then that's what led me to do a lot of the commercial media session work. That's what the next like 10 years were like for me. It was neat, good time.
It's funny because I think about being that age and doing music stuff. For you to take the phone book and say, okay, this is what I have to do. Is I'm gonna go with my demo or whatever I have.
I did.
And go to every single one and hope for the best.
My wife gave me that idea. No, she actually kind of did it out of anger. We were there for about 3 months, and we spent the first 3 months of our time out in San Francisco really well. She was getting into school, she was getting settled, but we spent a lot of our time just furniture shopping and just getting stuff ready that we needed out there. And at some point, that stopped, and I kind of didn't know what to do. And I remember one day I'm sitting on the end of my bed, and I'm just kind of like looking around the room. We're in a studio apartment. I'm just kind of like this. She's like, "The hell's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I just don't know what to do." She grabs the phone book and she throws it into my lap. She goes, "Look people up. I don't care what you find. Look people up. Just go." And that's what actually made me do it. I didn't even think about it. And so thank you, honey. And it did work. And it was a really good resource at the time. And I tell Johnny, I tell interviews all the time, like I would show up at people's garages, and it would be their studio, and
Yeah.
they'd be like half asleep, and they'd be like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I didn't
for a
realize this
session,
wasn't a real thing." I'll come back later, and then anything up to from there to like really, and San Francisco at the time, the studio that I recorded at, Hank Smith Music, was arranged in around all the advertising companies, and so they would create the commercial here on like a DAT tape and run it over to the studio, and we'd do the music, and then they run it back and they produce it.
Yeah.
So I'd be in there doing like a commercial for Coke,
Yeah.
and then they'd be like, "Wait, can you stay and do something for like charcoal grills or something?" I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, sure, man."
Sure. Yep. How much does it pay? Awesome. I'll
Yeah,
do it.
no problem.
So when you said you were there for about 10 years in San Francisco,
Right.
and then what was the catalyst to come back? Where you're just like, okay, we've kind of done our thing here. It's time to come back to New York.
Well, number one, my wife was pregnant with our daughter, and we wanted to make sure that we were back home. Number two, my band had broken up, and we were working for so long for a record contract, and it was already starting to fall apart.
Yeah.
I was already burnt out from the Bay Area. The Bay Area is a very insulated type of community. A lot of great players. Met some of my best friends out there. Love it out there. It's beautiful. But they're very insulated in that they don't necessarily want to be LA, and they don't want to be New York. They always have a hand up like this. And I was always saying, no, I want to do that. That's the thing I want to do. And I'm an East Coast guy. I love being on the East Coast. I don't like the West Coast. It's just not my speed, not my style. It's beautiful. Again, I met a lot of great people. The burritos are amazing. Sushi's amazing. But I just wanted to be home, and we wanted to bring my daughter home, and I wanted to just kind of start over again in New York. And I had this connection with the Collective because I had studied there, and I sent people there, and I had already done my book, and I had already done the SpongeBob theme and all the commercials and things that I'd done. And even though I wasn't really a signed artist yet or really known in any way, I'm like, you know what? I have a good foundation where maybe now is the right time. And my wife had her job transferred to New York City, and that was a good like opening window. So we were able to make that move cleanly like that. And then being in touch with the Collective, I actually got an interview there like right away, and they were like, oh, I showed them the book, and they were like, oh, you're really serious on it? Yeah. And just clicked right away.
Nice. So you came back, and that was what you had.
Yeah, it was about August, 3 months, and I had met with Tony Maggiolino, one of my best friends, who was one of the marketing directors at the Collective, and I knew how the school worked because I studied there.
Yeah.
And Sandy Gennaro, a great rock drummer who lives out in Nashville now, taught there forever, taught the rock class, and he was going on tour. And they're like, "Would you like to sub his class?" I was like, "Great, I know how his class works." And it was clicked right away. And I was there for 20 years.
Now, the Drummers Collective, because I've always heard about the Drummers Collective. Is it like a school where you sign up for classes? Like, I know they have like the Musicians Institute out in LA. I think
Similar.
it's LA, right? So it's kind of like a semester type of thing. Or is it like, can you take just one thing? Like, you just want to do rock ensemble or whatever? Or do you kind of have to like take multiple things to be part of the Drummers Collective? How does that?
So the Collective in general, first of all, the Collective has changed a lot. It's not around like the way it used to be. It's called the Sound Collective now, and it's mostly audio. And there are classes and there are semesters of people signing up acoustic wise, but it's not the way it used to be. The Collective started out in the late 70s as literally a bunch of teachers who got together in a drum studio and were just like throwing ideas at the wall, right? And then it became, for about 10 years or more, I studied in 92, it became like a 10-week, like a one-semester program. Or it was just like you study at the Collective for 10 weeks. You just go, and then a new class of people come in and that kind of thing. And then in the early 90s, through the 90s, it started to turn into a school. It became a bass collective, it became the keyboard collective, it went to, I'm trying to remember how many semesters it went to at that point. I wasn't in it at that time, so I don't remember the whole transition. But by the time that I started teaching there, it was a 2-year school. It was not it was a 2-year program. It was not a 2-year accredited school. And they were working on the accreditation. They got accredited in 06 when I got in. And then it became an accredited school. It wasn't officially a 2-year college.
Yeah.
What accredited means is that you could transfer your credits, but
Yes.
not all accreditations are the same level.
Yeah.
So they were working on the ability for that. What we often got was we either got a lot of foreign students who came over and wanted to do a 2-year program without worrying about a degree, or we got a lot of people from, say, like Berkeley or New Texas State, or guys who got their degrees and wanted to get into the school to study some more, advanced, like really advanced stuff or that kind of thing. And you could start anywhere from the prep division, which was the beginning, or if you could test out of divisions, you could go and do a year or the collective started to turn a little bit into a a la carte type of situation. Started to get a little too crazy with that. There was custom programs all over the place, or people coming in like the third to last semester, or weird things where it was just like, okay, we need to sort of center this and let people walk through the whole program. And by then, unfortunately, COVID hit, and then everything sort of changed around. Yeah, so as you know, it changed. But it was we called it the Disneyland for drummers. I mean, it was just so amazing, and the staff was just like, it was literally the best drum staff in the world.
Did Michael Carvin teach there?
At one point.
Because when I was in college, I had to take, like, my senior project.
Yeah.
We had to do a recital, and then I had to go to New York and take a lesson with Michael Carvin.
Yeah.
Because he was friends with Jackie McLean, and that was like the thing. When you were there at Hart, you went there and did that. I remember going, I think it was like the Kodak building or something. That might have just been a rehearsal.
It probably was.
Spot, but I wasn't sure because I thought Jackie had said something about the Drummers Collective.
What year? About 94?
It would have been, I graduated in 2000. So
2000?
It would have been like 99 or probably spring of 2000 is when I went and took the lesson, because it was like one of the last things.
Yeah, I mean, the collective was there, so you would have gone to our building, but it was not. You went to a different place.
Yeah, it must have just been a rehearsal thing.
Yeah,
But I remember going in, there was just like rehearsal stuff going on and drum stuff everywhere.
Yeah. I wonder where you went. That's funny.
I think it was like the Kodak building, or it used to be the Kodak building. It was like a big, probably like 10 or 12 story building.
Right.
But it was like rehearsal rooms everywhere.
Yeah. I wonder. I'm trying to think of what
I think it
rehearsal
was
place was
on.
there.
It was like
It's probably in the 30s.
the west
or
side.
something.
Yes. Yeah. Like on the
that's
west
where
side.
most of the rehearsal buildings are. Yeah.
Because I remember coming down, like the West Side Highway.
Right.
And like, finding a place to park and going up for the lesson.
Right. Right. Cool. Yeah, Michael taught there. I wasn't there when Michael taught there. I think he left in around that time.
Yeah.
I gotta remember exactly where. So I don't know him personally, but yes, he did teach there.
So, with your books, you've got your 2 books right now, right? The Drummer's Bible.
Yeah, and Drummer's Polymetric Mastery, the new one.
Which
Hudson.
I was one of the big winners. Thank you, John DeChristopher, for having Jason on the show. And it was funny because you were showing things from it, and I'm like, oh, that kind of looks like Gary Chester. And then it was like, you were like, yeah, and it was like, when I got the book, it is kind of set up like that with your, I know Gary Chester called them, I don't know if you call them melody, the melody line.
That's exactly it.
Over, a different thing, which I think is a great way to learn it. Because I know sometimes when I'm working on music and my students are working on music, sometimes taking a beat or something that's like longer can be like daunting when you hit that roadblock.
Yeah.
So being able to have like one thing at a time of like, okay, here's my thing that I'm doing. Here's my ostinato, if we want to call it that, or my pattern. And now I'm just putting this in. I think that's a great way for at least for me, I think it's a great way for learning stuff. And clearly if you put it in the book, it seems to work with your other students.
It does.
So how did you... Because I think a lot of drummers who are educators think about, I should write a drum book.
Right.
Because I'm using all of these things in my lessons. And it's just, maybe it's easier to just have it all in a drum book. Was that how it happened? Or did you say, like, I want to write my own book?
It's a great question, man. And I talk to students about this all the time because I get asked the same question. Someone will come to me and say, should I write a drum book? Or, So here, I have a couple answers to that. First of all, writing a drum book these days does take a little bit of research and time to think about what would be practical to do. After I released Polymetric Mastery, I happened to be on Hudson's site, and I was looking at all the ebooks on the site. And I went to the bottom of the first page, and it said load more, and I hit load more. And I went to the bottom of the next page, and I hit load more. And I went to the bottom of the next page, I hit load more. I went to the bottom of the next page. I went, oh my God, this is insane.
15 pages
Yeah,
later.
I was like, I think I stopped at some point, right? There's a lot of stuff out there. A lot of stuff. So with both of these books, this took 3.5 years to write, and then another year to do the second edition.
Yep.
This took 3 years to write, and both of them required 6 months of research before I even started to do anything, okay? The Drummer's Bible was a master's project that I started with. When I was doing auditions for schools, I put together a little packet of how to teach different styles.
Yep.
And what it did was so for a mambo. It was like, here's the mambo bell pattern. Here's a tom pattern a congo pattern that you play in your left hand on the snare and the toms. Here's tumbao on the foot. Here's your clave. They look like this. They put together like this. This is how you teach it. This is how you do it. Okay. And the guy that auditioned me, Dan Armstrong, who accepted me, said, you should really write a book at some point. And I held on to that packet. And when I started teaching Mick Berry in San Francisco, he said, we should write a book. I said, funny enough, here you go, right? Yeah. And at the time, there were only 2 or 3 books that were these all-encompassing style books, okay? There's Mel Bay's Complete Drummer. There was Russ Miller's Crash Course Drumming book. I think there was one other. I don't remember what it was. But one of the things a couple things I noticed. First, there was no books that had any sort of encyclopedic history. So 3 years were spent, Mick did a lot of the research on the backgrounds of the styles. We went to people's houses. We went to Ralfredo Reyes' house and said, just talk to us about styles. And wrote down notes. Garibaldi got the fun chapter. Louis Belson got the jazz chapter. We did a lot of research to put into the real foundation and histories to this stuff. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to come out, besides it being just a style book, we wanted it to be more like an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
All right. So the research was the big part of that. And we wanted it to be really different than the other books. One of the problems with the other books that were like this is that anytime you'd open up the book and say, okay, I want to know how to play a samba, it would show a samba and would be like, well, this is how to play samba. And here's another way how to play samba. Here's another way how to play samba. Here's another way. I'm like, wait a minute. There's 1 or 2 ways of how to play a samba, and then there are exercises of how the correct variations or improvisations for a samba. Time out. Yeah. So the idea about the Drummer's Bible is to give you the specific groove of where these come from, and then variations of what makes sense, whether there's percussion there, whether there's if it's a heavier gig, a lighter gig, a this or that. There's all these different variations. There's only 2 or 3. So each of these chapters only have 2 or 3 beats each. That's it. Yeah. But they're the essential beats, and then the reading about them. So that took a lot of research. The Polymetric Mastery, first of all, a lot of drummers have a problem with the idea of polyrhythm versus polymeter. It's a very different term, okay? Polyrhythm is when you have these strict rhythms that fall against each other. You get that, whereas polymeter are these cyclical things that Meshuggah, Porcupine Tree, do over the top of the bars. Tool, Denny Carey. That's the stuff that people are playing. That's what this book is about. Yeah. And then at the same time, I said, all right, let's think about the books that have this stuff done. Let me look through Gavin Harrison's book. Let me look through Camille Bijot, the Parisian drummer's book. Let me look through this stuff and see what I could do to make it different. And then where the New Breed thing came in is for the last 30 years, I've been taking my ostinatos and putting them against syncopation and New Breed. Yep. But you can't put those in a book. Yes. So the idea was to take easy grooves, basic grooves, put the ostinato on top, syncopation type grooves, make your own melody that looks like syncopation, and then dotted 8th, 16th, make your own melody that looks like New Breed. Yeah. And that's how that came about.
And you were telling me earlier that this is just basically book 1. Because this is all in 4. That's correct. And then you're going to do odd metered stuff.
Yes, and multi-layered stuff. I'm still on a lot of psychological drugs from doing this book. So I got to come off of those first, and then I'll do the next one.
The next book will be on mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll be like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I dug in, like I said, a little bit to the book.
Cool.
And I like the way that it's set up.
Thank you.
I tried the first couple, and it made sense the way that it's written out, especially once you get like the 3-note grouping. I think was the first one that was in there.
Yeah.
And it's great because I know for myself as a drummer, trying to come up with, I guess, that idea.
Yes.
Of like, I had a couple of my students and they were getting bored with 16th note fills around the drums. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't we do this? We're going to keep playing 16th notes. You're not going to think of anything but 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. But we're going to do a 5-note fill.
Fives or threes or
and
something.
then we're going to count it up. And then how many do you have at the end?
Right,
so like that was a lesson that I took. I had the students go home and say, okay, if we're going to do 3 groupings of 5 and then you're going to have 1 beat, make that when you're doing your sticking, do you want it to be a left hand or a right hand to come out and back to your beat?
Right.
Like what makes sense?
Yeah.
So that was something that they did, and it kind of gave them that light bulb, and it gave me the light bulb. I was like, oh, cool, now I can do this stuff too. Because I don't know that I think I had played some of it, but I never really sat down with a student and said, okay, let's do this. But I think if people buy this book, it's going to really help them open up to the idea of the polymeter instead of polymeter instead of polymetric. Because
polyrhythmic.
Yes.
Yeah. The thing that I always say about this book is that to me, the number one thing about these exercises are, if you've ever gone to school and done ear training for pitch, like boom, they'll sing a perfect fourth up from there, whatever. This is ear training for rhythm.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Yes.
Walk around, just walk, in a pulse at 120 or whatever, and sing and just hear 5 against that, or 7, or mixes of 3s and 5s and 7s. And the rest of the book what it does is that it gives you that idea, shows you how to count, gives you the basic ostinatos so you can hear that kind of stuff, basic rhythms. And then if you want to get better at it, well, then you start the melody stuff in your right foot, and then that works on your independence. Yeah. So it's sort of a rhythmic training versus independence type of book.
Yeah. I think for people that are interested, get both books clearly. But if you're interested in kind of expanding on what you're doing, this is, I think, an amazing book for getting that to work in your brain.
Yes.
To make it become something that's not maybe as scary when you hear people doing it, and then you try and do it. It's like, I don't know how to. Sometimes you run into the wall of how do I do this?
Yes.
How do I? Then you go onto YouTube, and then you go down the rabbit hole of something that might be good or something that might be bad.
Right. Careful of YouTube.
Yes, but I would say, pick that book up, and it should help. And if it doesn't, then you're not trying hard enough.
This was your practicing schedule here.
Yeah, right? Tell your boss that you need a couple extra days. All right, so how about, like, being in the music industry, I always like to talk to people about like surreal moments, whether it was a surreal moment for you playing with musicians or like seeing something in I guess it's a little bit different than the light bulb moment of seeing Kiss, but that influential moment of like, maybe you saw a band of guys that you would always, you saw some festival and you were like side stage being like, I can't believe I'm seeing this right now as the sun's going down in the stadium. And
I have a memory like that. It was so funny. It's one of my memories.
Yep.
So around 2013, one of my favorite artists in the world, if anyone's a progressive artist, is Neil Morse. Neil Morse is the keyboardist. He started Spock's Beard and Transatlantic, and he's got an incredible solo project. And his drummer is Mike Portnoy. And
is he any good?
I don't even know who you're talking about. And Mike, at the time, if you remember, started playing with Avenged Sevenfold and forgetting Adrenaline Mom. And Neil said, "I want to start an American band, like an actual Neil Morse band. Mike's my drummer. I want to find the rest of the band." So he put out an audition, and I ended up getting the audition. But the prerequisite for the drummer was that you're not the primary drummer. You're Mike's fill-in, Mike's sub. So I ended up playing a bunch of gigs with Neil and the band. We did a little short mini tour around here. We played Italy, and the memory that I'm talking about is in Finland. And it was at this place called the Isosiotto Festival. And it was on this, I don't know if you've ever been to Finland or if you know of Finland, but it's like the land of pine trees and lakes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Literally lakes everywhere, right? And it was this enormous field surrounded by lakes and pine trees. And it was a huge tent that was set up. And we didn't really know how many people were going to be there because we're in Finland, you know? So we're backstage and we're just about ready to go on in this, and the music starts and we hear the crowd, and we're all looking at each other and we're like, there's a lot of people out there, right? So we get on stage, the entire tent is filled. We find out later that there's people from all over Scandinavia there. Like people from Stockholm flew in, and you know, all over the place, you know, all the Scandinavian countries, even Denmark and everything. Huge crowd. And at night, after the festival was, and the show was absolutely amazing, and I actually have some of it posted on my social media. You can see me playing a song with them that night. After the show was over, we were in Scandinavia because we were high up. Okay, so we were like halfway up Finland. So during the summer, the sun doesn't set. Yeah. Right. We go to a sauna. You know, the Scandinavia, you know, that area created saunas. And if you know anything about a sauna, the real saunas, they're situated on lakes. And what you do is you heat up the sauna. It's like 200 degrees. You run out to the lake, you go cool off, and you come back in the sauna. It's like this
hot and cold.
Thing, but like all night long, like 3 hours. It's not go to the gym in your little towel for 10 minutes, you know? So we're like, you know, learning the life of how they lived, you know? And the sun, because it never sets, set just below the horizon. And there was a sunset for like 4 hours with no clouds in the sky. And we were just like in this lake, in the sauna, eating, you know, this great food with the sunset after this amazing show that was packed. It was like the most surreal moment of my life. To this day, I'm just like, whoa, I can't believe that happened. You know? So those are pretty incredible
How do you
moments.
top that?
Yeah,
Right?
you really can't.
That's awesome. I love hearing, especially you know, drummers that are touring and going all over the world. There's always like, you know, I was in Japan and you know, we did this, or we saw, you know, it's I love hearing the stories of what your moments are compared to, you know, me who's done very little touring. You know,
well, you'll get there. But most of my I really enjoy a lot of road. I don't love being on the road very long, but I love a lot of my road experience because I do love to travel. And I'm the kind of person that, like, you know, we'll get off of a plane and then hit the streets to see what the city's like. You know, we'll go to Perth, Australia. I'm running around the whole city and that kind of thing. So I've got to see like the inner sections of a lot of different places, which is really amazing. Most of the time, it's great. Most of the places we've been to are great. I can't really recall like a really bad experience. I mean, a couple maybe like iffy areas we're playing in or something like that. You know, or a little maybe the weather's like horrible or something. Like I almost got killed in a typhoon in China. I was like, the bus like waiting for the plane was like this, you know. But you know, it's most of the time when you're traveling, you're seeing such new things, having such new experiences that it's always special. You know.
I was talking to a friend's band that was in Europe, and they, you know, from the time the guy was young, he wanted to go to Stonehenge. So he's like, we're going to Stonehenge. Got there, he's like, this sucks. He's like, this was like my big thing. It was like an hour to get there, an hour and a half. They like rented a taxi to take him out there, and they're like, all right, let's go.
There's some rocks.
That's what he said. It wasn't anything like he thought it was.
Funny.
So how about like blown away musical moment where you saw somebody that you didn't expect, or you guys had an off night and went to a club, and it's just somebody maybe that you saw that you were like, holy cow.
Yeah.
That you didn't expect to be that good.
There's I can't think of anything right at this moment, but there's so many.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many times where I've just been, what am I watching?
Yeah.
You know, this is just so incredible.
I asked Jason yesterday, and he said Porcupine Tree.
Yeah, they're one of them.
He was like, we went and we knew, you know, Gavin's great, but he said like just seeing the whole band, we were like, whoa, this is another level.
Yeah, I saw them at Terminal 5 in the city, and it was, I mean, I love them. So that was definitely one of them. I'm trying to think of a band that maybe is not already so not so good, but like so musician, like Porcupine Tree was such musicians that you know they're going to be great. Like I'm trying to think of like, you know, like there's a Earth, Wind and Fire was one of them. I mean, you knew they're great, but like you're just like, wow.
To be when you're there, it's like, oh.
Yeah, so great. I you know, I got a couple. So some of my favorite bands growing up, unfortunately, did not have the following you would think they would. Like a band like King's X. There was a secondary band that would tour with King's X that sounded a lot like them called the Galactic Cowboys. And they were these bands that had these really heavy riffs and heavy, you know, progressive playing, but had these 4-part vocal harmonies. And I would go see them in these small clubs and just be like,
why is nobody here?
Why is nobody looking at? Why are these guys not in Madison Square Garden? So that's probably more of an accurate answer to your question. It's like the smaller places. There was a club down the Jersey Shore called the Birch Hill Nightclub, and Birch Hill would bring in all these absolutely amazing bands like that. Like all my favorite bands would pass through Birch Hill, and every time I'd be down there, I'd be like, I can't believe I'm seeing so and so, and I can't believe there's like 200 people here. You know, I was at like Dream Theater's one of their first shows ever. You know, you're like, there's 40 people here. You know, and you know, that type of thing I think is more, not so much the surprise of the musicians, but more like the surprise of the ambiance of how you already knew this band's going to be great. Why doesn't the whole world know about them?
One of my moments was, I don't know if you know Eric McPherson. He went to Heart, toured with Jackie, and he came back with Jimmy Green to do something, and they played, I think it was either Countdown or Giants. I think it was Countdown.
Yeah.
Just the two of them, and I had never, it was like watching the Buddy Rich videos.
Yeah.
Was seeing a jazz drummer play at that intensity and like the technical facility and like the rhythms and shit that he was doing with his left foot.
Right.
I was like, I can do it on 2 and 4, and I can play, you know, quarter notes. You know, like if I'm going fast, I can try and do it like Tony Williams. But like what he was doing was like, I had never seen a drummer play like that, like sitting at like where we are.
Yeah.
The drummers were watching him, and I just remember Steve Davis, the trombone professor, just like laughing at the end. He's like, I've never seen like 5 or 6 drummers like with their, you know, jaws open. He's like, and we were all like, we've never seen shit like that. That's Eric was like, yeah, you know, I'm okay.
I felt that way actually when I studied at the Collective, because that was the first time I ever saw guys like Frank Katz, you know, play, and he was like 24, 25 at the time. He became a very close friend of mine and has since passed, and I miss him. But as you know, 24, 25-year-old doing that kind of stuff, like going, jing, 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 and the left foot going, you're like, what is? Oh, I got one for you. Collective, 92, off the boat. I hate to make that sound wrong, but he literally did come off the plane or the boat from Cuba. Horacio.
Oh yeah.
Just taught our Latin classes. And people were falling off their chairs.
Yeah, he blew everybody away.
It was
when
like,
he showed
I've
up,
never seen anything like this. He didn't speak any English. He was the one that, my clave is right there. He's the one that taught, he really got me in the Afro-Cuban stuff, taught all the left foot stuff. But the things he was doing, even he was showing us all that stuff, and we were writing it down ferociously. And then he played a samba, and we're like, well, he's not from Brazil. And then he played the samba, we were like, it was ridiculous. So that's a good one, too.
Yeah, I do remember when he came on the scene, and it was like between Modern Drummer, any drum publication was like this guy, and then I can't remember which, I have the CD, the Michelle Camino,
the live one, or was it?
No, I think it was a studio album, but that was the first one that I got with him on there.
Yeah.
and I'm sure the live ones even is just ridiculous.
Insane.
I'll have to check that out because I don't know if I have that.
Yeah.
But even just the other one, just I remember it was a white album. I think Michelle was on piano.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I can see like the CD cover.
Yeah, I don't remember the title of it, but there's a DVD that was cut from that tour.
Okay.
And Horacio is just a madman.
Yeah.
Madman. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. So that was probably the best answer to your question.
Awesome. All right, so here's a question with, you said you don't do extensive touring or try not to. As a professional musician,
Right.
how do you balance the family aspect and the music aspect? Now, you said your wife's a photographer, so she gets it being in the arts.
Yes.
Of like what you have to do.
Yes.
But how do you find the balance of, because I know some like wives are like, you're going to play the band and do this with your friends and you're teaching lessons and you're going on tour. They don't understand it.
Yeah.
So how do you guys balance? Does she just understand what it is to be a musician and what the sacrifices are? Or how do you guys figure out that balance as a family?
We've been together since we were 18. She knows, and she's always said to me, I know when I married, and I don't know if in the beginning, it's weird. It's like we were just talking about the Kiss thing, right? And I always would say, like, I wish I had that gig, or I wish I had a gig of that nature. And as I look back now and I think about our time together and our families and certain experiences we went through and certain health things and certain, our daughter being born, I'm not so sure I'd be able to do that. You know what I mean? I don't know if I could go on the road like Metallica for 2 years straight and never come home.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure I could do that. But I have a good way. I've had good experiences of having, sort of splitting the difference and touring and doing, like the weekend warrior type gigs where you hop on a plane and go to do 2 shows and that kind of thing. And that's, especially the last 4 or 5 years of my life, that's been my life. Has been the traveling, mostly on the weekends or, like a portion of time in the week or something. And, we have good families that are very supportive. They live around here. Both of our fathers recently, unfortunately, passed away in the same week, which was absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
It was terrible. But they've always been very supportive. If she's away, I can go to my sister who lives down the block, or my parents, and vice versa, and with her. And there were times that, like, I did La Voz, the voice. I was doing the Hispanic version of the voice, and I had to film it down in Miami, and it was 7 months, and I came home twice.
Wow.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
That was hard on my daughter, and that was hard on her, but we made it through, and we understand, and they came down, and that kind of thing. And I think, it's having a mutual respect and for each other and for our space, and being very communicative, and saying, look, this is how long I want to be away. If you are not okay with this, I'll see what I can do to change it, or, But she's an angel, and so is my daughter, and they both have fully supported this. But they also know who I am. I mean, I can't, hide who I am, and this is what I do. I will say that we've been very lucky in the fact that the teaching has been a big part of my career for a long time. I mean, at one point I was at 3 colleges. Okay, I was at Collective, the University of Arts in Philly, and New School in New York. And I wasn't even playing that much. Yeah. So those are my day jobs. Yeah. Right? So I did spend a lot of time home. Yeah. So it fishtails a lot, right? And it's just being really honest and saying, all right, look, next month, this is what I have coming up, and that kind of thing. It's not easy. There's always times that are a little challenging. There are always times where we might have to have a little discussion, maybe being home a little bit more or this, that, anything. But overall, everybody's been really supportive, and I've been really blessed.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what current projects are you doing?
So I am the regular drummer for Mark Wood. Mark Wood is the most well-known electric violinist in the world. He started the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. We met through that organization. I worked with TSO for a little while. We don't play as much as we want to, so it's not a regular gig, but I am flying out to do gigs with him. He was from New York, but he moved to Tucson. So we've been doing a lot of West Coast gigs. We play a lot of different types of gigs. We do anything from the Mark Wood Band, which is just him fronting. It's almost like a Steve Vai on guitar or something like that, on violin. He actually opened up for Steve Vai at one point. Anything from that to something called EYS, which is Electric Fire Strings, where he works with a school orchestra, and we back that up, to him with a symphony, with like the Tucson Symphony or this symphony or that symphony. And it's a really good variation of gig settings, because we get to really change our setup and that, depending on what we're doing. And usually when we're doing the orchestral stuff, we do what's called Mark Wood's Trans-Siberian Experience. So the first half is usually Trans-Siberian Orchestra stuff with the orchestra, and then the second half is usually like some original instrumental stuff that he does. His wife sings on some, and then we do like Zeppelin covers and things. It's cool. So I work with them. And then I have a lot of part-time gigs where like I share a gig with another drummer. Rubik's Cube, which is an 80s show that I play, I would say around the New York area mostly, but we also travel, okay? I was in something called the Ultimate Queen Celebration with Mark Martel, who sang vocals on the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, all right? And that, without Mark, that band still exists, so I do some stuff with them. I sub for something called the Royal Scam, which is a Steely Dan band. And I'm actually a sub for Kansas, one of my favorite bands of all time. So I played with them in Florida recently, and that's always fun. So I'm doing a lot of like those type of things where I get called, hey man, we got a gig in Pittsburgh, or we got a gig in Phoenix. Can you fly out for this kind of thing? And it all seems to kind of, I've had a couple of duplications, but it all seems to kind of like, one weekend I'm here, one weekend I'm with these guys, and it works itself out. It's actually fun. It's pretty cool.
Now, with those gigs, do you have everything charted out?
Depends. Not all of them. Most of them. With Mark's gig, I've been playing with him for 11 years. I don't have to, but I do, because oftentimes I'm the one clicking off the orchestra, or I have, like, there's a lot of tempo changes and meter changes, so there are a lot of times where we stop and I have to click the next section in, with the conductor. So I have charts for that, just for a lot of that stuff. Okay. For like, some of the cover band stuff, I don't even say cover band because it's not really a cover band, but these shows, these tribute shows, no. For the Steely Dan one, yes, because it's so technical and the arrangements are so technical. So it depends. It's off and on. Oh, and then of course Broadway. I play Broadway and sub on a couple Broadway shows. I'm really active on Little Shop of Horrors right now, and of course you have to use the book for that. So yes.
So with the Broadway, when you came back to New York, how do you get into the Broadway scene?
Took a couple years. It takes some time because...
Did you go on the phone book and start calling?
My wife threw me the phone book and goes, I'm telling you what you do, call somebody. And this time I took a marker and started just doing like this. No. That took some time because Broadway is a hang. It's not audition. It's not like, this show's auditioning drummers. It's a hang. Most of the guys that get the chairs for Broadway shows are guys that are either really close to the music director or people that actually start on the production level. Like they're actually help produce the show. Like a guy by the name of Larry Lelly. He's a big New York drummer. Sean McDaniel, he's playing chess now. These guys start as producers and they work their way up. And then if you know them, or the music director, or people in their circles, often they're calling you and be like, hey man, can you sub? And my first gig was Rock of Ages, and I ended up playing 7 years. And it was because I was working with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and a couple of the TSO guys were on the show. And it's all a who you know kind of thing. No auditions, you do all the preparation yourself. It's a sink or swim. They've tried out guys that fail and don't get asked back. They tried out guys that are so good they get the chair. So it's a wide range of people, but it's not an audition type of thing. You don't open the phone book and find the audition.
Now, how much if someone were to call you for something that you haven't done Broadway wise,
Right.
and they said, okay, here's the book, or here's the scores. How much lead time do you tend to get on a gig like that?
Well, the lead time is typically, it's a little open, more like how much time do you need, but with the understanding that if they're calling you for sub, it means there is a sub opening, which doesn't happen often on Broadway. It's very like, it's like sharks all out there, which kind of means like you should get it done
Quick.
Yeah, like tomorrow. You can't do it tomorrow, but quick. It takes me a good solid. If I have nothing else going on, I could get it done in like a week. But usually it's like about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Between listening to the audio, getting they usually include the conductor videos because you're usually on screen. You get the book, you make your notes, you run through it down here. I'll change the lighting to make it look like the booth.
Yeah.
Between all that kind of stuff, it's about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you get called in, and then you go and you do it. And usually, for me, it's come out great every time I've done it. I mean, there's always notes. There's always people saying, "All right, can you do this in this measure?" Or this, that, and the other thing. A lot of it also is understanding that you are playing like the drummer. You're not playing like yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to like write notes of like what fill they're doing, what groove they're doing. It doesn't matter if you think it's great. You don't do that. You do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that takes some time to sort of, maneuver into the right, area. But yeah, about 2 weeks is for my range.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing, the Broadway thing. I remember going at 10 because my mother was like, you have to go see we're gonna make you a well-rounded kid whether you want to or not. I remember fighting. I don't want to go see Cats. Stupid Cats.
Cats.
Yeah. And then I remember like going with, I think it was my grandmother, my mother, and my father.
Right.
And we went and saw Cats, and I remember seeing the video of the conductor. I think like is there one side stage?
Sure.
For the people, and then I remember my father telling me, he's like, "That's like live musicians under the stage." I'm like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "That's pre-recorded and blah blah blah." And then when I finally figured out that
Did you look over
it's all no, we were far enough back, but I remember like looking something up, or I saw something on like TV about Broadway and how it works in the orchestra pit and everything else. I was like, "Whoa, that's like a whole nother world of like, you're in, and then like seeing videos of people doing it, and you're in your own little dungeon down there."
Yeah, right.
And
you're in a different room across the way, something like across the street sometimes.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And then just you're watching the conductor video. While you're doing it. And then were you talking to John about sometimes you have to cue stuff like off of Ableton?
Yeah. Well, the particular show that I'm on Little Shop has a pedal to the left of the hi-hat.
Yeah.
And the Ableton is controlled by the drummer.
Yeah.
And in the book are little like highlighted spots where you have to hit the pedal. And there's always like errors and, player faults of just double clicking the pedal or missing it or
now,
something.
what do you do in a situation like that if it mistriggers?
There's there's an SPD next to you. You stop the click, or the click stops on its own. And then there are safety bars, and you're looking in the music, and like if there's a safety 1 coming up in measure 27, as you're reading it and playing, bam, you got to hit the safety to be like right on.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that part sucks. That your asshole is constantly doing this during the show. I was like, oh god. I'm gonna simplify Broadway for you, okay, and how hard it is. Okay, real simple. Back in the 70s, in the 60s, and really the 70s, you had your studio players and your Broadway players. They would mix, but it wouldn't normally be the studio players are the Broadway players, right? They would just kind of mix. You had your gads, you had these guys, you had the guy, and then you had the show players, right? Because studio life is pretty much dead these days, and everything is like technology. Guess where the session players ended up? On Broadway. So everybody on Broadway now is a motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like there's nobody that's not great.
Yeah.
And the subs are all motherfuckers too. So it's a very, very competitive world. And it's a very trustworthy type of world where, because there's no auditions, Like, if you were my sub, I would have to know that you are like on top of it every show.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're doing. You're
question
playing
marks.
no question marks. You know the show. You're playing like me. The guys like you. I can go away and sit on a beach and know you're doing a great job. Okay. I have not done a chair of a show yet, and that would probably make me really nervous.
Yeah.
So I give a lot of the chair players credit for trusting people like that,
Yeah.
but you got to be really good.
Yeah.
You got to read your ass off. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
How are we doing on time, by the way? Are we good? I know it's a little over, but
yeah, well, I got like 2 more things.
Cool.
So where can people contact you? Do you have
here, right in my house.
I mean, websites?
Yeah.
Do you have?
So I'm working on a new website right now, but my primary connections are email, Jason at drummersbible.com, no apostrophe.
Yep.
Facebook, I'm at the 5,000 person limit, but they can always message me there.
Okay.
And Instagram. I'm actually trying to push people more toward Instagram just because there's no limit.
Yeah.
And I have been answering people more on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what I post on Facebook, I usually share to Instagram.
Yeah.
So, and that's just my name, just Jason Gianni. So any of the social media, you could just reach me on there.
Yeah. And then I always end like Dom did with the
Yeah.
sessions of like words of wisdom, something that you would give to people that are like, I love what Jason's doing. How do I do that?
Yeah.
Or just words of wisdom, don't piss into the wind. Like
Well, I do that, and it's really fun when it goes all over you, and you're like, oh. Let's edit that.
Cut.
No, I'm kidding. I think there's a lot of words of wisdom, and the reason why there's a lot is because the business has changed so much. I used to be gung-ho about telling my students, sit down, take out a notebook, I'm going to tell you all the stuff you're going to do. I want you to go to school. I want you to learn everything. I want you to do this, I want you to do that. And I don't really feel the same anymore because I don't trust the business as much, and I don't want to go to sleep knowing that I'm sending a student to a school who's going to be $250,000 in debt when they get out of school. My words of wisdom is to learn as much about the business that you can, ask a lot of questions, know a lot, because that's a mistake I made when I was younger. I didn't do this, but I definitely had a period of my life where I'm like, well, my playing is going to carry me through.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick analogy that I make to New York City, and it kind of pulls back to that. Working in New York City is like getting your ticket to like an amusement park for the first time, right? And your talent is the one that gets you the ticket. It doesn't get you work. It doesn't get you jobs. It doesn't make you famous. It gives you the permission to work in New York. That's all your talent does now, right? And once you get in New York, you run up to the ride. You always the haunted house in Disneyland, right? And you always wanted to go to the haunted house, right? And you run up to the haunted house. You're like, I made it, and I'm gonna conquer this, whatever I'm gonna do. And the first thing that happens is you open the door to get in, and bam, you hit a bunch of people, and you see this line snaking through, right? And you didn't see that from the outside. Yeah. Now you're like, where did this come from, right? So what do? You turn around because you want to now take a shortcut to leave, and all these people just filed in behind you. So now you're sandwiched in here, and your only choice is to move up slowly through this line. And the last thing that you have to do is get in that ride the best you can and make the best of that.
Yeah.
Right? And you only have like one chance to make it, not one chance, but limited chances to make that. So my words of wisdom is to learn about that. Learn more about how the business works and how there are so many great players out there that are doing great things and much less work. And that's not to defeat anybody. That's not to say don't do it. I love telling people, hey man, let's go make make a musician, you know. But you got to really do it the right way and really know a lot about it, and try to be a good person when you do it too, because that, you know, the bad guys always kind of sort of, you know, come through first because they get the attention and then they drop off first, you know. So it's just like kind of like a slow, take your time, slow kind of thing.
Awesome.
That's my words of wisdom.
Jason, I appreciate this.
Brother.
Go out and buy the Drummer's Bible, Drummer's Polymetric Mastery.
Pizza from Joe's.
Pizza from Joe's. Can they get them through you, or it's best to go to, like, what's the best way to get the books?
Okay, so if you're looking at the books, there's online. This is on both of these are on Amazon. This is through Hudson. So probably the best way would be to just order through Hudson. But either of these can be purchased through me for a little less money and signed. And I could sign them and send them out. And so it would be a little less money plus shipping and handling to you as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. I appreciate
You're a good
it.
man. Love this.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Hopefully it will continue and I'll be the next Rick Beato of the the industry, because that guy's got a pretty good thing going right now, right?
You need a son that has that perfect. Have you seen his son's videos?
No.
I'll show. When we turn these off, you're gonna freak when I show you that.
We're gonna go on YouTube.
Don't tell anyone, man.
All right, folks. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching, and check out the next episodes. Check out the past episodes. Check out all Jason's stuff, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.